Australia is the sixth biggest producer of wheat in the world. More than 50% of Australia's land that is set aside for crops is used to grow wheat. The country devotes 23.5 million hectares to wheat production, and in 2022, it produced 2.8 metric tons per hectare. This amounted to 34 million metric tons and generated $15 billion for the Australian economy. So how did Australia become one of the world's leading exporters of wheat? Wheat was first introduced to Australia with the first colonists in 1788. Although the first few years produced poor harvest in the harsh climate, once the people got to grips with the new environment in which they farmed, wheat became a popular crop. By the 1870s, flour mills popped up all over the country. Experimentation with hardier, more resistant varieties led to wheat becoming Australia's most valuable agricultural product. It amounts to nearly 15% of Australia's agricultural production. Australia is known for its hot desert climate in its central and western regions. These conditions aren't typically suitable for arable farming. So where is Australia's wheat grown and how is it grown? It is grown in what is known as the Australian grain belt. This spans the southern tips of Western Australia, South Australia, parts of Victoria, New South Wales, and Queensland. It covers a crescent shape across the southern regions. Wheat grown in these southern and western states is mostly exported, whilst wheat grown on the eastern coast is predominantly for domestic consumption and feedstock. Wheat is a popular winter crop. It is sown in the winter and harvested the following spring and summer. Many farmers rotate their wheat crops. This means that a wheat harvest is followed by seeding of another crop like canola or a legume. Having a break between wheat harvests reduces the risk of disease that can decimate a crop. Planting legumes can enrich the soil with nitrogen. Due to the scientific modification of wheat, often creating a more resilient crop, farmers sometimes grow wheat consecutively. This can be achieved safely as long as the varieties of the two harvests are different from each other to reduce the risk of disease. Incorporating disease resistance into some varieties has eliminated certain crop diseases such as cereal cyst nematode. Farmers will sow their wheat seeds between 25 millimeters and 50 millimeters deep. If they are planted too deep, then they may not emerge altogether, and if they are planted too shallow, then the seedlings may be damaged by herbicides. Seeding rates are recommended at about 60 kilograms per hectare for lower rainfall areas and up to 90 kilograms per hectare in higher rainfall areas. Australian wheat is renowned for its high quality and versatility. It is the most common grain that is grown in Australia, and it is used to create a wide variety of end products. These include Asian-style noodles, Asian bread, Western bread, cakes and pastries, pasta, and couscous. But why is Australian wheat of such good quality? Why does it have such a good reputation? The Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development in Western Australia funds a lot of research and development into the wheat industry. Western Australia exports most of its wheat, so this is the variety that most foreign countries are accustomed to importing. The research and development cover all links in the production chain, from plant breeding and disease management to quality assessment and export market intelligence. Plowing a huge amount of money and science into the industry has created a resilient and successful crop that thrives in Australia. With such an excellent reputation, Australia's wheat is highly sought after across the world. Between 65 and 75% of the wheat produced in Australia is exported globally, and the majority of it ends up in Asia and the Middle East. Wheat exports amount to $2.6 billion. Western Australia is the biggest exporting state, exporting 2.3 million tons to Indonesia. The type that is produced in Western Australia is white-grained wheat, which has a variety of uses but is known for its use in the production of Japanese white salted udon noodles. The dry harvesting environment in this part of the country means that the wheat has a low moisture content and is less likely to be damaged by the weather. But there are growing concerns regarding the changing weather and climate, not just globally but for Australia and its agriculture. Water security, low soil fertility, and biosecurity, such as biological threats from imported goods, all threaten the security of Australia's agriculture. Australian wheat production is highly sensitive. It requires optimal conditions to thrive. A major concern is the rising global temperature. The optimum growing temperature for wheat is 23 degrees Celsius or 73 degrees Fahrenheit. As well as this, wheat is also very dependent on rainfall. Global warming has caused a shift in the weather patterns traversing the Pacific Ocean. This has resulted in much drier conditions across Australia's wheat belt. When rainfall is good, then farmers can expect to produce about 2.5 tons per hectare. But when rainfall is limited, this can be reduced to only 1.5 tons per hectare. Conversely, too much rainfall, which Australia has also suffered in recent years, can reduce the quality of the grain and lead to a later harvesting time. Perhaps the most challenging aspect of these conditions is the volatility and unpredictability of the weather. To overcome environmental and climate pressures, farmers can sow their wheat at different times in the year. Traditionally, winter wheat is sown in the autumn and then flowers during a precise 2-week window in spring. Flowering outside this narrow window dramatically affects the yield, but drier conditions and more erratic rainfall are also reducing yields. Over more recent years, there has been less rainfall during the traditional sowing season, which massively affects the crop and its growth. To combat this, farmers can sow their wheat earlier in the year. However, this means that the wheat flowers outside the optimal flowering window, also affecting yields. What farmers can do is use a different variety of wheat, one which they can plant earlier to avoid the dry climate, and which develops more slowly and therefore still flowers at the optimal time. It's not just Australia that is relying on the success of their wheat harvests. Many other countries do too, as Australia provides more than 10% of the global wheat trade. There is a responsibility for some countries to provide food for those that aren't able to. Australia is no exception. The effects of climate change may be felt more keenly in some parts of the world than others, but we are all affected by it in one way or another. Similarly, political turmoil thousands of miles away can have a global impact. The Russian conflict in Ukraine sent grain prices soaring amid concerns of global food supply. These pressures were somewhat eased by Australia producing a bumper crop of wheat for the 3rd year in a row. In 2021-2022, Australia emerged as the 2nd biggest exporter of wheat in the world. Over the past decade, Australia has averaged 24.8 million tons of wheat output a year. China has now become the world's largest buyer of wheat, followed by Indonesia. The world's reliance on grain products like wheat should ensure that there is always a demand for wheat farmers. Currently, the demand for wheat is set to increase over the medium term, and whilst the value of Australia's wheat exports reached a record high during the 2022-2023 year, they are set to ease slightly over the next 12 months. They are predicted to still remain high, though. But a word of warning: with 3 consecutively exceptional years for wheat harvests across Australia, there are concerns that there is significant nutrient depletion from the soil. Subsequent years are likely to require greater nutrient inputs and fertilizer usage, which will eat into profits.